you guys, this is Courtney Camaro. I'm outside of Muhammad Ali's real original home. We're in Chicago, and I wanted to shout out Al's Botanics and Herbs. Man, when I tell you, I am one of those people that has insomnia. I can't sleep. I can't focus on some days because I'm so sleep deprived, and this has helped. This is one of the mixtures he has that helps with sleep.
Yo, 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 yo. So I'm live once again. Thought it was a good time to go live. Didn't really see anybody else. So think it was a good time to go live. And it's a lot going on. You know, this week is rather interesting. A lot of market fluctuations this week. And although I still believe my money machine, my quantitative trading system is I'm really thrilled about it. Um, it's not oblivious to the market. It's not a it's not oblivious to market conditions. I think whoever probably has a 401k, their 401k has gotten cooked this week. Um, I think it was like yesterday was like the worst market day since spring of 2025. So yeah, it was like one of the worst days in quite a while in the market. And I did take a haircut on my trading system. I did take a slight haircut. I had initially like 1700, and I lost about $50. Lost about It was like 50. I think I ended it at $52. So I did take a haircut today because the previous day was the worst day in the markets in like a year, over a year. Um it's probably definitely the worst day of the market this year for sure so far. Um it was over $1 trillion in losses um on that market day yesterday. Today took a small little trim up. Like basically you got to cover ground in situations like this. Situations where you've lost money or had some profit losses, it'll take you days to recover usually. So I think it's pretty normal. A lot going on, the market doesn't like things that's going on, just like you don't like it. You don't like endless wars. You don't like the downfall of society. Like, you know what? I was gonna do a video. I was gonna state the three downfalls of society. And one of them is endless wars. And if you look at Rome, that definitely was something that affected Rome, I believe, led to their demise. But yeah, endless wars. Um, I would say definitely single mothers households. I mean, check out my latest short. My latest short in this little boy, young teenage boy, was just so disrespectful to his mom. I mean, just totally disrespectful. I mean, after a while, like you have to have like children need fathers. You know what I'm saying? So like single parent households, definitely I'll say number two. Number three is homosexuality. Homosexuality for sure. So you got homosexuality, single parent households, and endless wars is ripping this fucking country apart. It'll rip any country apart. Those three things, it'll rip any country apart. You know what I'm saying? Like Sodom and Gomorrah, literally, that's just one aspect in this country. You have endless wars, you got fucking, single parent households. It's shit is going down a cliff, bruh. Now, to find some stability in it, it's like, oh, this is, doesn't make sense. Broke genius. Why are you investing in, you believe the America is on a decline? Well, I gotta make something. I mean, like, this is I'm pretty this is a pretty black pill time to be in. It's pretty black pill because I mean, I'm pretty sure it's a lot of people that probably done just gave up. I'll just say that because I'm on YouTube. Like, it's probably a lot of people that gave up because it just seems like you kind of can get trapped, like you're entrapped into this cycle of things. It's like you're just trapped into this. But I think other people just make it worser. Like, I legitimately do think, to a certain extent, if you're let's just say, if you don't have enough finances, I mean, you're kind of in a state where it's like you're, kind of trapped or in the trap. Everything is expensive. Like, there's something called a poor tax. Yeah, like you probably, this is probably the first time I ever talked about it. But there is a poor tax. It's like, yeah, it legitimately, like I'm saying it, like a poor tax. Um, you gotta think about it, right? It's just like, okay, instead of, you notice, like, if you order a service or whatever, even StreamYard, right? If you pay the full year, you get kind of significant discount, like 10%, maybe even 20% if you pay for like something on an annual term, right? Versus paying for it monthly, you pay more. Thus, the poor tax. And a lot of people are stuck in a situation where, not only do they not, have everything that they need, they have to pay a poor tax because they just don't have it. It's like, late fees are a poor tax because you don't have enough money, so you paying it late. You know, um, Late fees, overdraft fees, all of these are poor taxes. It's a tax on your finances. You not having enough to cover everything. It's a poor tax on the poor. Um, and a lot of people pay that. A lot of people every day pay a poor tax. You know, um, you can even say interest. What is interest? Right? Here's the thing, right? It's a such thing called Christians and Semites. Okay, Christians and Semites. Follow me now. Follow me. Okay. So you got the Christians, right? And then, you have the Semites. Well, technically, that would explain these endless wars, right? The crusade theory, right? The crusades technically never ended, right? What you kind of got going on right now, but it's not necessarily what I'm talking about. Um, Christians actually are okay with interest. That was something that, Christians can actually do, partake in on either side. They can purchase things and get charged interest, no problem. The bankers, they can charge interest, no problem, right? Well, when you get into the Semitic world, the Semites, the Jews and the Muslims, right? They don't believe in interest rates. It's pretty much part of the core of the do's and the don'ts of their of religion, right? Islam definitely don't. Interest is considered haram, right? And it's the same goes for Jews, right? They're not supposed to pay for things with interest attached to it. They're not supposed to receive interest, right? And interest interest is definitely a poor tax. Yeah, it's a poor tax. It's a tax on the poor. To be honest, as someone that's kind of a warrior in kind of different ways, you know, just the way, I just kind of dealt with life and all of its toughness. I know it's out of your comfort zone. I mean, you definitely, you maybe need one credit card, as long as you be able to pay it off before the end of the month, they technically can't charge you interest, right? Well, when it comes to houses, a lot of people think that you have to get a mortgage. And, you're talking to some or listening to someone that had bought two houses, without having a mortgage. Okay. Basically, they were dirt cheap properties that you could pay cash for. You had to fix them up, right? That was the catch. You had to fix these properties up. Well, it's possible. I've showed you that. I mean, it's not me just talking. I actually showed you that you can buy a house dirt cheap, less than 50,000, less than really 30,000, and fix it up and not have a mortgage. I mean, I literally, yours truly I'm not just talking about it. I actually showed you could do it in real time. Now, again, I mean, interest absolutely for sure is a poor tax. It's a poor tax. And the reason why I said all of this, when I mentioned the poor tax, it's because, when you don't have enough finances, or let's just say financial resources, you're going to pay that poor tax. Now, why that's, a problem is, because basically, it's just gonna make life tough. It's gonna make life really, really tough for you, and tougher than what it already has to be or already is going to be. It's just an added toughness layer to how things will be. And that's just kind of how it feels, kind of being stuck, like, to this situation where, you know, if you, let's just say life was already tough, you add the financial element to it, and it's a lack of finances. I mean, now, you know, it's just like this added layer of toughness, right? Um, it just, it's tough, tough to deal with, and it's like, I could see how people feel hopeless in that type of situation and scenario, and now, I admit I have felt that many of times. Um, and again, going back to why I invest, I mean, I think that it's still some stability in the country. Not all of everybody is, raising children by themselves. You know, all women are not raising children by themselves. There's women that are married. I mean, there is some stability left in America. I'll just say it like that. Without, going into a long soliloquy as I just did, which was very informative. Yeah, it's still some stability left. There's like 20 over 20, I think 20,000, or I want to even no, I think no, it's over 200,000 millionaires. Actually, I think it's millions of actual millionaires in this country. I forget how many. Um, Let me see here. I think it's like millions of millionaires. I mean, it's like, yeah, if I'm correct, last time I remember looking this up, like it's like billions of them. Yeah, it's like 23.6 million millionaires in this country alone. Like 23.6 million. So it's like it's still stability, man. It's still, this country is still one of the richest countries in the world. Like China is, it's steamrolling, like it's getting, pretty much it is more powerful, but the United States is definitely dead second. But it's still some stability left. Um, but things are really messed up, like I mean, you know, to be honest, all of that shit, the endless wars, the single parent households, the rainbow agenda or rainbow mafia, you got to ask yourself, who profits from this? Who gets stronger? I'm a chess player. I'm still playing chess. I did pretty good today. Yesterday I was kind of going through some changes. But basically, it's still quite a bit of stability left in this country. I mean, end of the day, but you got to understand, like, who profits from the degeneracy? And when you research and you drill down who profits, from degeneracy and decay, you'll understand also, one, how to possibly stay away from this, and then two, understand who's profiting, and then you'll pretty much be a 5%er at that point. You know what I'm saying? He'll be a 5%er at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause I mean, pretty much you gotta understand, it's always someone that's profiting off of someone's pain. off of someone's weakness, someone is always profitable.
Fucking hate coming here. I'm your brother, you my brother. You know what I'm saying? Let's walk this way. Is that Prince or King? Come here, Prince. What's today's mathematics?
Hey, yo, no disrespect, but we ain't in all of that, son.
Build, destroy. To build is to elevate the mentalities of self and those around self. To add positive energy to every nation. To build, you must first start from the root, which is the knowledge foundation, and add on to the highest peak. To destroy is to eliminate and destroy any and all negativity that enters my cipher of supreme harmony. Peace, God. Peace, God. Come on, son. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing is like the elites want you to basically be a degenerate. They want you to be an unbalanced degenerate, you know. And the reason being is if you're a degenerate, it's kind of hard to be competitive. It's hard for you to be it's hard for you to be strong and be a degenerate at the same time, or even be the byproduct of a degenerate. It's very hard for you to be strong. It's hard for you to find strength within that, to have some type of long-term evolutionary stability. Like it's very, very difficult being a byproduct of degeneracy, you know, or even just dealing with or having a life of degeneracy, abnormality. It's very difficult to have strength within that. And at the end of the day, the powers that be, they want to be strong while they want them and their family to be strong, and they want you to be weak and be a weak degenerate, you know. And at the end of the day, man, like I say, I mean the market was down the other day, and it was doing good today. I covered a little ground today. I did have a trim, had I lost about, I think I ended the day with like $2 minus two, lost like $2. So I mean, I've had losing days before on my machine. It's rare, but I've had them. Um, I definitely have had losing days. It's market dependent. I mean, it's a trading system, so any trading system just about probably I would say most likely is market dependent. I mean, like I mean that's what you're trading. You're trading the market, trading stocks on the market. So, the market is down. I can pretty much, because my stocks are looking primarily at S&P stocks. I mean, or my trading system is primarily looking at S&P stocks. Like when I go to look at the charts and see how the Dow is and the S&P and the Nasdaq, if I see like the S&P down or the Nasdaq down or the Dow down, or if all three of them down, most likely, I mean, that's probably the equivalent of a red day. If I see the S&P down, it could be a good chance that I'm, might not make that much profit that day, or like because my trading system still finds winners, like it's still looking for winners, right? Or runners or whatever. So I may or may not had a bad day from or a red day, but if nothing else, like at the very most, I'll just make a small profit, for the day. So won't be a big profit day. But if the market like today, like yesterday, or I mean not yesterday, but when was it? It was Tuesday, I believe. Yeah, Tuesday. Um, so when it was like with Tuesday, it was the Dow was down, the S&P was down, the Nasdaq was down, everything was down. So yeah, I mean my trading system was also red in the red. So I mean the only way I could have avoided that would been trade out all of my stocks and just recover whatever balance that I have. That would be the only way that I would have not taken a loss that day. You know what I'm saying? So other than, or I could have did manually trading. I could have just, because I know how to look at stocks. I know how to. It's even when even even with the S&P down, the Dow down, the Nasdaq down, like there's still stocks that are plus money. Like it's one stock that I been holding for like over a year. It's like I think it's like it's a pharmaceutical company. Like that stock hardly ever even goes down. Like even on a down day, like that stock was still green on that last Tuesday. It was still green. So it's certain stocks like they'll be green, they'll be plus money even when the market is down. So I mean, like I know how to trade and get those, but it's still a risk. I mean, a lot of times if you get spikes in the daytime, like let's just say stock just takes off. It's been many times that's just kind of like you're you're catching the tail or the tail end of a pump and dump. It's like a pump and dump, that you caught wind of because the volume spiked and some news report. But then by about lunchtime, a little after lunchtime, maybe 1 o'clock, that stock starts dropping like a stripper in the 90s when Cash Money came out with Girl You Look Good, won't you back that ass up. Like, I mean, it started going low to the flow. Like, I mean, yeah, you found, and you had no stop loss. You know, you've caught the tail end of a pump and dump scheme that you had no idea was a pump and dump scheme, but you kind of, that that happening, like that actually going down like that, usually that is an indicator of a pump and dump scheme. Literally just like that. After lunch, they pumping it, they dumping that joker. Pumping it in the morning, afternoon, dumping it. And it's like, yeah, I mean, experience have, showed me different things and scenarios, but it's like, you just gotta that's what a trail stop is for. Trail stop, basically it it has a certain price or percentage. I normally use percentage like less than 7% or whatever. So what it'll do with the trail stop, which is different than other stops, it will ride along the stocks going up, and then it'll just keep going, and unless it goes below that 7%, it'll just keep riding it, riding along. And as soon as it drops to 7%, because the difference between just a stop loss is as soon as it just goes to this 7%, it just automatically triggers. But with a trail stop, it basically it kind of is a delayed stop where it'll ride the stocks, growth, until like, basically it goes down a certain percentage, and then, if it just like for a long period of time just doesn't recorrect and goes higher, it'll trigger the stop loss. But I mean, the thing is like, yeah, I know how to do certain things like that. Like, I could trade manually on a bad day and I could still make money. Like on a bad day, my magic money machine is, basically it's no magic. The magic will be, like me kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I could cut most of my trades and close them out, and then I could just trade manually because I know I can beat a down market because I'm an experienced trader. So I know how to beat pretty simple to beat a down market or any day's market as long as there's still some stability left. I mean, um, Exxon Mobil, tends to go up, a lot. Walmart, Amazon, certain stocks they go up, or it just depends. It could been a antiviral drug that just completed FDA approval, and it basically eliminates um I don't know, diabetes. I mean, that thing gonna go up, that stock gonna go up, man. Like that shit going, and that's not a pump and dump. It's not a pump and dump. And that's happened. I've seen stocks go up like $20 in one day. Like as far as like maybe go from $1 to $20. Like, I mean, you know, you could. That's why stocks is one of those sectors, second to real estate, that has the most millionaires. Because it's just certain shit. Like, I mean, you know, it's a lot of stuff. And now I'm gonna talk about this dude that's on DJ Vlad. This is white dude. I don't remember his name. I forgot it. I didn't even try to notice his name, but it's like one of his latest DJ Vlad interviews. The dude is like, he kind of like a legend. He took 20 bands and made it and turned it into like $3 million in like 2 years or something like that. And but I'll get to him. I'll try to get back to him. But as I was saying, as far as um yeah, I'm experienced enough to trade in a down market, as long as it's not like no really, really bloody market. Like a really bloody market would be very difficult. Like I'm saying, like, let's just say COVID just happened, or 9/11, or some an invasion in America, like the market is down. it's bloody. It ain't gonna be hardly any because it's like a black swan event. It's not gonna be any positive trades most likely that day. Um, on a normal market, when it just market is down because of maybe even global conflicts, there's still stocks that are positive, you know, or even up positive. Like I say, it doesn't matter. Whatever, we could be damn near war with Russia, fucking missiles flying, everything. If a motherfucking drug that gets FDA approval and it's some like serious, like it's like HIV, drug that regresses HIV or something, or eliminates HIV, or eliminates cancer or some shit, like, or significantly increases the mortality rate of a said disease, you ain't even got a cure. It's so many things with drugs. That's why so much money in the pharmaceutical industry, because like you don't even have to eliminate a drug, a particular disease, right? You could just make it to where the person that has it can just live longer than he would normally live. Like, let's just say someone has um brain cancer or something like that, or um some one of those, I forgot the cancer, I think pancreatic cancer or something like that, or not pancreatic, but I think it was some cancer. If you get it, it's like terminal, and I don't even think it's a cure for it or some shit. I want to say it's pancreatic cancer or like liver cancer or something. I don't know. One of them like types of cancers in your body that it's like when you get it, it's hardly any cure for it. And it's like the mortality rate is high. Like if you invent some type of, drug compound that increases the mortality rate, like to where, okay, you got it, it's saying you got maybe 4 to 6 years to live, but this thing increases it to like 10 plus years. You still, it's worth a lot. That drug, it will be worth, one, a lot of money. It'll cost a lot of money, and then two, um, it's gonna make a shit ton of money. So like the stock is just gonna shoot the fuck up. And then you know what's gonna happen? Even if you got out of it, which you probably shouldn't even get out of it at all. Like even if it goes down a little bit, I've seen it where stocks don't even go down. It goes up. It goes up. Like let's just say it goes from $1 or to like $35 in one day. Because it's something like um, drug, increases the treatment, increases the treatment for liver cancer. I mean, like, man, that thing's gonna shoot up as soon as them FDA approvals. Like literally, there's websites just for FDA approvals. Just in case if you want to nerd out on this shit, there's literally websites that show you, that keep track of like basically FDA um approval, or dates where it might go into approval because they're gonna have a vote or something. Like, I mean, soon as some one of like those major drugs go up, or it just like, let's just say you caught the first you was the first investor in the Wegovy drug, those I think is what, GLPs, or I think like the Ozempic. If you call Ozempic, like that thing went up, and then It stayed up. It's like it went up and it got stuck. It was up and it stuck. Like when you catch one of them drug companies, man, and they just they go up, the next day, and then you close out maybe because it might have dipped a little bit, and you close out that trade. Next day you ain't even gonna be able to afford to buy it. And you're gonna be looking goofy trying to buy it because you ain't gonna be able to get that many shares. I mean, I'm explaining things that happen to me. Like that's happened to me a few times. I set my stop loss and it triggered, but then the stock bounced right back. It went further. It went dipped down and then went back up. Then the next day it was up even higher, and then it just kept going. That's how stocks go sometimes. Like that's the story of a lot of stocks. It just goes up and up and up. You know, then it goes down. But that's how Facebook was. Do you know? I mean, I remember Facebook when they first came out. You could buy Facebook for like $30. Like Facebook was like in 2006 and 7. You can get Facebook for like probably what $30, $25. I think Facebook was even cheaper than that. And I mean, like, now it's like what close to $1,000. I think it crossed 1,000 or is very close to it. I think it's like $800 or $900 a share. I mean, like, that that's how it starts low and it just keeps you thinking like, damn, this can't go up higher. It's going higher, 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 higher. Like years of just going up higher, 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 higher. Like that's Facebook. That's Amazon. That's quite a few companies. I remember, I'm a tech. I'm a tech. I've been in tech for a couple decades now. Um, I remember Nvidia was it was not the top um like tech part, like video cards and everything like that. I mean, like it wasn't really like top shelf. Like the Intel stuff was like that was the top shelf stuff. Nvidia, they made pretty good graphics cards and everything. AMD, I remember AMD's was like, it was like Reeboks. You got Nikes and you got Reeboks. Like AMD was like Reeboks. Now AMD is just, took the fuck off. I think Nvidia bought AMD. Not to be mistaken, but I'm not sure about that. But Nvidia just took the fuck off. Now Intel is kind of catching up. Intel had a revival. Intel was like stuck at like $5, less than that. I think even $1 a share. And then I looked up at Intel. Intel's like over $100 now. You know, it's just, man, it's just amazing, man. I mean, you can get rich off of this shit, man. You know, I don't know why anybody would not, especially if like, I don't know, maybe if you making money illegally, just put that shit into a brokerage account, get with someone that knows how to trade, and your money just gonna take the fuck off. It's just ain't, it just ain't, you ain't got no, it really doesn't have a choice. I mean, you invest your money to where in companies that may or may not have a higher trajectory. I mean, like, you know, you putting your money in businesses that's making money, you know, I mean, your money is gonna make more money from that. Like, if you do it right, it's like, some people just don't understand that. It's people that don't know how to make money. Yeah, like that's an art form. I don't get me wrong. It's an art form. I'm not a master at it. I'm not, I ain't I'm decent. I'm pretty good, but it's some legends, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, but I know how to do it. I know how to take something and make, a profit off of it. I know how to take a t-shirt and then sell it, for $5 or $10 or something. I bought it for $1, know how to do that. Um, the thing is that, it's a lot of people, they don't know how to make money. Only thing they know how to do is work for someone that makes money, that knows how to make money. They themselves, they do not know how to make any money. They know how to work for someone that knows how to make money. You see, you probably never heard someone talk like this before. But the thing is this. It's a lot of people. All they know how to do is go to work. They don't know anything about how to make any money, make money, none of that. A lot of people are like that. I would say majority of the population of people in this country, they don't know how to make no money or don't have any desire to make any money. It's some people that look, okay, like my viewpoint on like street peddlers. Some people look at street peddlers like bums. Street peddlers can make $500,000 a day, selling candy or whatever, chips or waters and socks and towels and shit. Like, I mean, the thing is like people that look down on that, some people look at you asking someone to buy something like you selling, Girl Scout cookies or some shit, like you're begging. Like some people, yeah, they're legitimately, behavioral, their mindset on people selling things is like you're almost a panhandler at that point. Yeah. And them actually doing that would make them a said panhandler, so they don't want to do it. Like they look at that as embarrassing, like you're begging someone to buy something. And it's like, yeah, people legitimately, that's their mindset. A lot of people have that mindset. That's why they would never, like, it's just people that just give away things. They don't never sell nothing. They don't never they won't never sell anything because in their mind, they just don't know. One, they're not, you have to be social to be a salesman. You have to talk to strangers and basically it requires a certain level of decorum, a certain level of you got to talk to a stranger that's it can go left, it could what I'm saying, it's a lot of risk involved. you know people don't want to deal with all of that. People normally don't. I don't know how many people, but it's a lot of people. They will never open up a restaurant. They can have the best steak. They can cook. It's people that know how to really cook. Like they have like some family recipe or some recipe or some way to make something that is just as good, if not better, than if you go pay, a decent amount for some food at a restaurant. And I'm not talking about McDonald's or Burger King. I'm talking, maybe um I'll just say like a 3 or 4 star restaurant. You know, they have meals that are on that par level that they cook from home. They cook at home. Their family loves their dish, even in-laws, and if they have a big family party, everybody loves the way he cooks steak, right? And they would never open a restaurant because they're not just, it's almost like kind of like an ant or a insect or like a bee. It's just some bees are worker bees, some bees are drone bees, and you have a queen, and it's like, it's just some people, I think they just don't know how to do anything else but be just workers. Like that's how they're wired, you know. Um and the way they look at certain things is, in their vantage point is, how they look at it, and they don't want to sell anything. They don't want to deal with that. They probably even see the benefit of it, but they still won't do it for whatever reason. Like, they won't do it, and um those people are very vulnerable, because that behavior, as far as let's just say you look at salesmen as like panhandlers, or the idea of you selling stuff is like you almost being, people, your friends will call you and ask you, are you okay? Do you need a loan? You know, did you lose your job? I saw you selling something online. I was just wondering, because that's normally not something you do. And yeah, like, that's how people look at things. Like you, if you selling stuff, you down on your luck. Even though people go to Walmart a lot, or they've been to Walmart, and what is Walmart? A big ass store where people, they selling you stuff. But like, people don't, they they disconnect Walmart from a person in the market, or even worse, a person on the street, walking around selling you stuff. I mean, that's like the ground level of, okay, you start there, and then that's level 1. Level 10 is you're Sam Walton. I mean, like, you own Walmart and Sam's Club. Like, I mean, people don't understand that dude, that street peddler on the street, he's just like on level 1. Like, if you play video games, you understand it's levels to this shit. And it's like, me as a businessman, I understand. Matter of fact, I was the dude walking around selling shit. Like, I used to walk around selling Jordans. In a really dangerous part of the south side of Chicago. I got a big ass bucket, a big ass tote, um, a big tote with full of Jordans, full of knockoff Jordans from China. Selling them for like $80 a while. And I don't know. I mean, you, it does help if you're a little bit crazy if you wanted to go into business. Because if you do have that, that does help. That does kind of help you in business, be a little risky, you know, um and do things to make a living. I'm just trying to sell Jordans. I know people like black people like Jordans, you know, and I had over $1,500, just from just selling Jordans within a matter of a couple weeks. And I mean, like, yeah, like, You know, I used to sell. I tried to sell oils. I wasn't really good at that, but yeah, I used to go around. I'm sure when I was a kid, I used to go to people's houses and ask ask them if they wanted their grass cut. A snow shovel. Whatever season it was. The Midwest, you got you got four seasons. You got winter, you got the snow, and then you got the autumn, you got the leaves. Then in the summer, you got grass that has to be cut. And then you got the spring, you clean out your gutters and all that. So that's all of those seasons is opportunity for you to make some money, you know what I'm saying? So rake some leaves, shovel some snow, clean out some gutters, clean out a garage for spring cleaning, um, cut some grass, you know. I mean, it's opportunities to make some money, because of the weather, and the different seasons, and yeah, I used to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like I used to go to, door to door, um but yeah, you got some people they're just not they don't have a entrepreneurial bone in their body. They just don't, and I mean when those people get rich, like go to the NBA or NFL, no, they suffer because they can't they can't do after they retire, they can't do anything to make what they made in the NFL. They don't have anything else that they could do to make that much money. So, and then you got a habit of spending a lot of money. That becomes a habit, So it's like, what do you do? I mean, you just get broker and broker and broker. Then you file bankruptcy, and then you work in the UPS, and you used to be a football player, a decent football player, first string NFL football player, big salary, you know, household name, and it's just like, yeah, I mean, because earned income is very vulnerable because you actually have to be present to earn it. If you no longer present to earn that income, it's a mute point. It doesn't mean anything. And human body is very fragile, very vulnerable, very limited, very finite. And earning income does take a lot from that human person, the human body. That earning that income, it's very, very difficult. It's very dependent on a person earning the income. So when it comes to like, certain elements, let's just say, being able to, basically use money to make money, right? Let's just say it just as simple as that. Knowing how to do that, it's not dependent on necessarily earned income. Maybe you do have to do certain things. Maybe fill up an ATM, maintenance, vending machines, maybe a laundromat, taking the quarters out, put it in new quarters, whatever. It does require a little work or whatever, right? But I mean, you're making more than you probably did at your job. You and then you could use that money to make more money with it as well. I mean, it's a lot of things, but the whole point is, it's, once you're no longer able to earn that income, you know how to make money, and you probably even exceptionally, if you know how to make even more money, you can use that money to your advantage. And in a lot of people, a lot of athletes, entertainers, they don't know how to do that. Just regular persons. They're just regular people. A truck driver, right? Why does a truck driver drive trucks? Because he ain't got no money to do anything else but drive trucks. It's probably very few people, maybe an autistic nerd. He just likes trucks. He likes trucks so much, he don't even really want to get paid. He just happy to drive trucks. I don't know, maybe, some on God's green earth and somewhere in America, there's one person that's just that, it's just like that. It's like somebody that likes trains. You know what I mean? I'll be a conductor for free. I get to ride trains for free. Like, I mean, the thing is, it's like, there's people driving these dangerous trucks. One of the most dangerous professions, is being a truck driver. Um, they do it because they got to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't know anything else to do but that. They don't have no momentum to do anything else, because you do need momentum. See, the thing is, those athletes and entertainers, they already had the momentum. A truck driver don't make as much as a top tier sports athlete. Um, the thing is that yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to do things on that level. It's that's why, it's also why so many truck drivers. I mean, like, it's hard to go from zero to $1 million versus someone that they make $11 million a year. I mean, and they've been in the NBA for 20 years, and they've made over $200 million. Like, I mean, it's high, you already up there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's very easy to stay on top because you're already up there. It's like being on Mount Olympus with the gods. Like, you up there, you know, you got more money than everybody in your family combined, you know, on both sides, your mom and your dad side. Like, I mean, it just, it just, you up there. But a person, an average everyday individual, they don't have no momentum like that. They don't have no $200 million. They don't even have $20,000. And I mean, it's like, yeah, they got to do something to make some money. Especially if, like, a lot of people drive trucks that live in remote areas. Like, people that live in remote areas, a lot of them, like, most of the town, it's places in America, like Wisconsin is like a lot of places. It's places that's so remote that dudes just drive trucks, and that's how they survive. They actually the whole town, the whole community thrives because these men drive trucks mainly. You know, a good chunk of it, because it's nothing else they can do. They have to go drive some big rig somewhere and then pick something up, take it this way, and then they get paid, in a decent wage, and they could, they live their life, they pay their bills and everything. Maybe their wife is a school teacher, you know, She don't make as much as school teachers in a big city. But I mean, like, yeah, they manage, and it's like, and so many places like that, so many people to do stuff like that, man. It's crazy. And it's like, they gotta do it though. It's no other way. Like, and it's like it is hard to do anything else because you do need a certain level of momentum is required unless you're going to build the momentum. You would have to build the momentum yourself. But it is a certain level of momentum. That's why I started off talking about these sports athletes and entertainers because they have the momentum. The momentum is usually something like millions and millions of dollars. They already have it, and it's like going from zero, like I say, going from zero to millions of dollars, right? Versus someone trying to go from zero, you know, um, to like, they only make like what 60 grand or 65 grand driving trucks. Like, okay, they all and then they only gonna make 65. They ain't gonna make anything extra. And maybe they might do some stuff on the weekend. Maybe they make some extra money. I don't know. Okay. Um, but that's all they gonna make. And you got taxes and child support and all other expenses, right? And it's not you're not making that full 65K or whatever. You know, you it's safe to say probably not making that much. You're going to be able to save that much because you got mortgage, rent or rent or and all of the other bills, right? Even if you and your wife go 50-50, you might have a little bit left over, to save for trips, rainy day fun, but you're not gonna, it's not like you're gonna have a whole bunch of money to start a business or really take off in stocks and stuff like that. You're gonna have to do something more extreme, to do, to make money, and here's where I'll talk about the dude on Vlad, the trader on Vlad. Let me see if I can get his name because I was watching a couple of his clips because Vlad does clips first. And a lot of them podcasts, that's what they do. They do clips first, and then after the clips, I think they they had a members only. They get to watch a video, the full video before for like a week before everybody else get to see it. And then they'll give you the full video. But yeah, dude name is Chris Camillo. Chris Camillo. So what he did, and this is rare. I mean, very few people. You almost like wizard status if you can accomplish this. But he did something different. He did options. Now with options, you can take a sum of money. I would even say even possibly a small sum of money, depending on what's small to you. Like I would say couple $100 to primarily 3,000 or even $30,000. And you can actually become, you could pretty much become a millionaire off of one basically options contract. Um not as far as one contract, but like I'll say an options trade. Okay. Yeah, you could become a millionaire. Like if you if you basically ride a stock, let's just say you do um a $30 call on a stock that is currently, you do it for like, let's just say 6 months out, and the stock is currently at $5, and you just know something is gonna happen, mate. You just kind of have an idea about something, maybe a trend or something that's about to pop that nobody really knows yet. And then this thing just takes off. I mean, it just takes off. It goes from, basically $5 a share to $38. And it's like, that's like, almost like pretty much, it's like 10,000% or something like that, right? Something ginormous. And it's like, yeah, that money you put in it, that 30 grand, yeah, you done, you done easily crossed over $1 million. And you see what he did was, that's what he did. This guy Chris Camillo, you know, he would study different trends. He would, like, basically, he said he would study with different drug companies. He would go to forums and groups, online groups, about different diseases that was associated with the drug that was possibly gonna, get FDA approval or was in the testing phase. And he would just basically monitor these groups and the different posts, and kind of sift through the hay, and just see what the people were talking about, and see if they actually talked about this promising upcoming drug. And he would just basically, like, do things like that, which was very, very, like, almost spy worthy, you know and he just did his own investigations. And he would put options, calls for these pharmaceuticals, and then, as soon as the FDA clearance come through, he's print money. He's rich. And he was doing this over and over and over. Like, I mean, the dude is a wizard, because he's looking for possibilities that the average person is not even really even thinking about, but it makes sense. So he was like, okay, so it was another thing. It was a roofing company, and okay, he it was really bad, like thunderstorms and hailstorms, like, I want to say down south or somewhere or whatever. And he would study Google trend words of roofing, and people looking for roofers, right? And he saw a spike, an unusual spike, and it was definitely associated with this hailstorm. And it wasn't that many roofing companies. It was like basically one big one, and he invested, money in another options call, and that thing went through the roof, literally, because, I mean, he spotted a trend that was happening, that was going to correlate to the market. Because basically, A uptick in roofing requests equals more money for that roofing company, and that correlated in the stock price. Okay, just in case you don't know in detail, a company has accountants. Once a company has a stock ticker is on an exchange, it has to report finances. And it has to show real-time finances of what the company sales are, the sales reports, the losses, you know, all of these things have to be reported. It's like, basically EBITDA, you know, and um those reports correlate to the stock price. Okay, you made a shit ton of profit, you made a whole bunch of money these 2 months, 3 months period. Okay, this this is this is a correlation in stock value. Okay, this company made a whole bunch of money. They reported, you know, sizable profits. They already have low debt. Okay, stock went up. It's just like that. Like, um, you know, that's how you can make money. You study trends. That's how you can just do all kinds of stuff. Like when you study trends, like you just can find all kind of stuff. Like I ain't gonna lie, like I remember when I kind of found out like, how you can find out, like I found out basically how you can spot a woman that's ovulating, like, and it just was through observation. Like, because I remember how I found out, how I finally came to a conclusion. So I was in Gary, Indiana. I was dropping off. I was in the process of going to a gas station because I was dropping off my handyman that was helping me work on my house. I think that day, I don't know what we were doing. I don't know if we was in the basement working on the basement, or I don't know what, but basically we was in this gas station, and it's like little petite joint, man, like kind of dark skin but look good. Like, I mean, looking like a dark skinned Jada Smith, um, like, I mean, I'm like, and then she was like extremely happy, and I want to even say flirtatious and talkative. And I mean, I mean, unusually talkative. Like she offered to give like my handyman to pay for his food in the gas station. And then like when she got out, I noticed like her face was flushed. She was talking about how she was going through a divorce and she got kids and blah blah blah. And she was just like, I could, it took me a while to figure it out. I didn't figure it out on the spot, but when I, went home, um, I was thinking about it. I was like, she was probably ovulate. I mean, she was horny than a motherfucker. Like, you know, and I noticed her face was like really flushed. And I was like, oh, so that's what that is. So it's like, yeah, I mean, you know, I was talking about stocks, but I was talking about a couple other things, but I left you with some game. I left you with a little bit of game. You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, I mean, hopefully, the market stabilizes today, later today or later this morning. And I'll have another green day, man. So hopefully things are on the up and up. Fridays usually are pretty decent, end of the week, ending things off, closing out business, Um, but it's a lot going on, geopolitics, I mean, it just really, really affects the markets, Um, the market is really, really sensitive to the news. Really, really sensitive. I mean, like the news is like nerves to the market. If you look at like nerves, like, in a blood system, nerves, right? The nervous system. So that's what the news is. Really, really bad news can really affect the market. I mean, it just is like it just it's like the market getting sick, from exposure. Like it just I mean, it just really, really affects the market, and I mean it has a very, very sensitive you know sensibility to the news. Good news, normal news is okay, but like bad news, missiles firing off into Saudi Arabia, the Strait of Hormuz, U.S. military, um, Iran firing off missiles at U.S. bases. Um, that is not good news. Okay, oil prices spiking higher on Middle Eastern tensions. That is going to affect the market. That is always going to affect the market. Um, that's really bad news. That's not good news. That's terrible news, actually. And the market responds to that. It's nothing I could do about that shit. I mean, nothing. As far as like, my trading system, I mean, like I said, I'd have to manually trade, but I'm not, I mean, hopefully things will work itself out. I mean, I'm optimistic, but it's like another, 4 years of surviving Trump. Like I mean, I just feel like I'm in episode day, this, and this, surviving Trump. I mean, like, what is he gonna do today? Oh my god, oh my god. And it's like, yeah, man, I know I'm not the only one, man. It's just, man, it's just, I was kind of, man, like optimistic about him at first, and it was like, man, I start to see all as soon as that Epstein shit start bubbling up, then next thing you know, missiles fire. You know, I mean, even before that, really, like the fucking Maduro thing. I ain't like that shit. That shit was fucked up. That was like, you know, I don't know how to. I mean, I wasn't really invested in the market that heavy at that time. I don't remember how the market responded to that. I think the market might have even went up. I don't know, but I mean, I don't know, like all these little campaigns and shit. It just doesn't. It's it just it's not necessary, to be honest, if you really think about it. Like, what the fuck are you trying to kidnap some dude over in, some South American country? I mean, obviously it's over, resources, oil, but it's like, okay, you look at America, right? America's fucked up. All these homeless people, bridges and collapsing, and fucking grids, messed up, uh just problem after problem after problem, deficit, you know, increasing, you know, people, unemployed, and AI replacing jobs. Like, I mean, it's like, the average man is just getting destroyed. The average person is just getting absolutely destroyed. And it's like, oh, it's the problem is outside of America. No, it's not. The problems are in America. It's plenty of America got enough internal problems. I promise you. You'll be busy. You'll be so busy. I mean, it's like a big construction area. Like, I mean, you just be busy constantly because there's so many internal problems. You know, it's enough problems to be busy for years. It's enough internal problems that, I mean, you can start tomorrow and work overtime. Like, it's plenty of problems. It's like, oh, everything is the problem is outside of America. Dude, there's problems here. We're having a shit ton of problems here, buddy. Here, right here. The problems are right here. What the fuck you keep going over there for? The problems are here. And it's like, yo, it's crazy. Obviously, you know, the kind of tinfoil hat response or reason why he's doing these things, is because he's obviously being controlled, to do these. I mean, because I don't even think he want like I just on the least side of everything, I think that he's being, told to do these things. He has to do these things, right? And it's like it's tripped out. I don't I the end of all of this, I don't know how this is gonna end, but I mean this shit is crazy, man. $39 trillion deficit, you know, um, birth rates are plummeting, the marriage rate is plummeting. I mean, societal degradation, you know, um, men and women can't possibly, are having problems dating each other or even liking each other. I mean, like, if it's no, like, okay, here's the thing, right? Men are motivated by pussy. I mean, women kind of control the world in that sense of like, in the sense of um the world runs on pussy. you like, I mean, it's all back to pussy. Like, I mean, like the reason why men want money is to make pussy happy or to get pussy. It's like, yeah, I mean, like the thing is like You know, when men are having a hard time getting said pussy, or you know, the I don't know, it just it's a problem in the pussy department. Men ain't gonna be motivated to do shit. They're not gonna be motivated to do anything. Men climb mountains. Men climb the pussy mountain so they can get pussy. They go to fucking college. They go to school. They go to fucking work to please pussy. Miss New Pussy or Miss Current Pussy, they trying to please. They're motivated because they're gonna get this, this, and this, and then side of pussy, a piece of pussy. That's why. That's why, dude. That's the nightmare fuel that men are motivated for to get pussy. I mean, when I don't, I was, I've known about this for decades, and I've known about this, And it's like, women probably listening to this. There's quite a few women that listen to me. They do understand that they do have their pussy does have have some power, And the thing is I don't know how a woman would listen to what I'm saying and not blush, or maybe not even probably even get wet for me saying that, yeah, I mean, men get up in the morning for pussy, go to work for pussy. Like the whole world revolves around pussy. Like if men, but see, here's the thing, right? When men don't get pussy, here's the thing. See, here's the thing, right? And it just sets up into just like something. It's almost like, and that's what's going on in America, right? Um, it's setting up some type of Fight Club scenario. That's the least. The worst, technically a civil war. Those guys, those Semite guys, the ones that, you know, have the bigger hats, the big hats, small Semites, Muslims. You know, I was raised within that type of uh, philosophy, so to speak, that paradigm. It's it's a thing where these guys get themselves in bomb equipment. They get paid some money, their family gets some money, and they go blow some shit up. And it's very easy for them to kind of blow themselves up because their family is happy, they're martyrs, and they got some money now. And you know, the incentive of them guys doing that, they don't they really didn't have any job, they didn't have any steady income, they were poor. I mean, I know you probably don't, you don't give a shit about all of that. You don't give a fuck about if they poor or not or whatever. But I'm just saying, like, the reality is these guys are so poor. In Islam, you can't be poor and necessarily get married. You at the most of the brides have a dowry, and you have to have money to be able to afford a dowry. You have to have a place to live that's desirable for a woman to want to live with you. Um, it's I would say the most hypergamous women are Semitic women and Indian women. Hands down, hands down, hands down. The most hypergamous women on this earth is Semitic women and Indian women. Third. Then you could put forth, Asian women. Um, the thing is like historically speaking, like if you was poor, you just poor. That was your life. Like, and it's like, there are ways you could do things now. It's a possibility. It's still difficult, but like it's very different. Like they had to set up a dowry system, you know, and the thing is like their daughter. A lot of those families actually depend on that dowry. That dowry is like, all of the money that they poured into their daughter. They get something back from that. Because these countries, man, they have an old way about them. They don't have no retirement fund, no pension fund. There's no social security. There's no section 8. It's none of that in these countries. These countries, they rely on whatever the shirt that they have on their back. That's it. They don't have any loans that they can get, nothing. No credit. It's whatever they can make. And when it comes to them giving off their daughter, it's one, they want their daughter not to be in poverty themselves, to have a better life. That's what they ultimately want. Just like anyone would want for their daughter to have, a fruitful, good life. So they're not gonna. I mean, one, the poor man, he's not gonna even be able to afford to daughter, and then two, the father would not give them give his daughter off to a poor man. That's one of the reasons why they do these honor killings. That's one of the major reasons why they do these honor killings. It's your daughter, the daughter is trying to marry a poor man or a man of low class or caste, and that puts shame on the family, and it's like, to them, it's like their daughter being thrown in the sewer. Their daughter would rather be in the sewer than, walk above the sewage, like everyone else. And they just killed the husband, the father, and the brothers. They killed the daughter. They stone her or whatever. They do, that's why they do honor killings. Like, so you gotta understand, this is what these men have to deal with. This is the financial system that they have to deal with. And within that is, they don't have any hope for any bride. They can't get married. You know, they don't have anything to live for. So kaboom, they become kaboom. You literally, like, nobody hardly, they talk about the herbivore man. They talk about the herbivore men in Korea, and the lying flatters, and all of that, but they hardly ever talk about suicide bombers, the Middle Eastern, you know, suicide bomber. Like, you know, they don't have they're just in the same situation. An ordinary, average guy, low earnings, can't get women. I mean, they basically incels. They probably was the first incels that nobody ever talked about. That nobody ever even pointed out that these guys is actually incels. Like they were the first incels, and nobody fucking talked about it hardly. You know, and nobody even gave them a the moniker of being an incel, but they were truly incels. I mean, they probably was the most gangster incels because they literally became the kaboom. You know, life was just so fucked up. They just became kaboom. To just give up and just be like, become the kaboom, like that's tripped out. But you got to understand, they coming from poor family, no money, no job prospects, no employment, basically a beggar or a laborer or whatever they can get a hold of to make money for the day. They live with their parents because they can't even afford to get they can't afford anything. They can't they like, in their late teens or early 20s. They just as healthy and vibrant as any other 20-year-old, 19-year-old. They horny, they want to get laid, they want a woman to be with. They don't have any money. They can't get an apartment. They can't get a house, nothing. They don't have no money. They can't pay for a dowry. They're not the husbands just it's not it's some countries where you just give a dowry, they so poor, they ain't gonna even ask questions, nothing. Now don't get me wrong, it is some countries like that. I think like Somalia is probably like that, most likely. Like you just give the money, you got the bride. They ain't asking no questions. Like that's extreme poverty, right? But like normally the the father is going to ask the husband some questions. He's going to, ask some questions. It's not just about the money. He want to make sure that his daughter is marrying someone that, is valid, right? So like, yeah, like I mean, you got to be, valid, but I mean, the thing is like um they ain't gonna even have the money to be able to even talk, to even get to the you know let's make a deal conversation. They don't have any money, and then what they're not gonna be able to, unless they lie and be convincing. They're not gonna be, and then they're gonna risk death or being stoned to death or whatever if they get caught in a lie. Because if he lied and said, okay, because father's gonna ask, what do you do for work? Where do you live? You know, you say you live with your mama, and he asks you where you live, and all, he's gonna know you low class. He's not going to marry your daughter, his daughter. So, um, those guys don't, they don't have any possibility of getting a woman. And then they're in a closed there's the way I look at it, me being, growing up in Islam and stuff too, like I mean, I look at it like this, like there's countries that have that are closed sexually, or like sexuality is a closed sexual society, closed. sexual society, like Pakistan, like Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Iran. Uh, those are closed sexual societies. Whereas, like, okay, the West, Australia, Japan, or certain countries, South America, those are more open uh sexual countries. And it's like these guys that become the kaboom, not only to add they're poor, they can't afford a bride, right? They can't get a bride, they don't have enough money to be able to take care and afford a bride. um they're in a closed sexual society. You can't just they can't just fornicate easy like that. They don't have enough money to afford to pay for a prostitute. It might be hard for them to even do that. It's like, in order for them to have sex like they want to have sex, they'd have to get married, and that's it. Like, ain't no we go fuck over here and meet over there. No, like, so it's harder. I'm not saying that they can't do it, but it's harder. They'd have to sneak, you know. And the thing is that the pressure for them to get married, you know, is like really really high. And then in order for them to get married, they have to be able to make a certain a standard of living. And the thing is like, yeah, these guys can't do that. So some warlord walks into their village and offers so much money for you to become the kaboom. You go sign up to be the kaboom. And that's what that's what's what that could be what's going to happen in America if it goes to a situation where it's this, you know almost going to each separate corners as far as men and women and their relation to each other, because sexual relations with each other, because like it's places where, I mean, like, it's a small, I do admit it's a small percentage of men that will, like, let's just say, go overseas. Like, it's a small percentage of men, like probably less than 10% of men will be going overseas as an option, because it's a lot of things. One, they don't want to, so that excludes a lot of people. Uh, you know, two, they can't get a passport, so that excludes quite a few people. People that owe child support and stuff like that. And then three, uh, people just don't have the ability to do that. Like, I'll be honest. I mean, I'm working now, and I would have to do everything on a weekend. I don't have the ability to take off of work for a week. I mean, I'm not even like I'm just a contractor now. I've been a contractor for a year now, over a year, and I was working for uh, a company. I was the one of the employees of the company, so I had PTO. Yeah, when I was working downtown Chicago, I was working directly for the IT company that I worked for, and they had PTO benefits and the whole package. And like, you had so much PTO. If you got the PTO, like, you could use it. And it's like, yeah, what I do now, I don't even have any PTO. It's no PTO. I mean, If I want it off, I could take off. I could just tell them, yeah, all right, I'm gonna be off. I'm not gonna get paid for it. I mean, I could do it, but I'm not gonna get paid for it. Like I take off, I could probably take off like 3 days, something like that, you know. But I'm not gonna necessarily get paid for that. I'm not gonna get paid for it, you know. Um, so that kind of messes up your paycheck, you know. Um, but let's just say the ability to do so. I mean, technically I could, but not really comfortably. Not comfortably. Not realistically, I would even say. Because yeah, like so people don't have the ability to go travel overseas, take, a week, extended week, or, nice a nice like, 3 or 4 days, right? Um, because when I went to the Dominican Republic, I was uh I was already at home. I was I was actually in the middle of uh, um the end of my contract because the company I worked for, they lost the contract. They got beat out by some other company. So I was already just at home. So I just, booked it, I just took a trip, but um, the thing is most people don't have the time, you know, all of those things like the passport, they don't want to go to, that excludes everything else. But like, yeah, like everybody ain't gonna just be passport bros. I mean, that doesn't even make any sense. That's never gonna, I would, that would be crazy to just like everybody is just passport bros. But I mean, like, that would be crazy. That would be absolutely insane, right? But like, the thing is, like, if this shit continues to go on, like, let's just say on some like, I don't know, like some armistice stuff, like, Mexican standoff, where, you know, these dudes ain't able to get no pussy. They can't, like they gonna start shoot. They already been doing it. They've been, getting the AR-15s, shooting up schools and shooting up places and shit like that. You know, um, they gonna crash out. You know, they gonna be it's kind of like they not, they're not necessarily being the kaboom, but they like lashing out on the public because of their, lack of, you know, whatever they're lacking in their life. They're taking it out on the public directly. They literally crashing out, you know. And you're gonna have more crash outs, basically. You're gonna have a bunch of crash outs, Um and you got, most people don't even carry no gun. So, for whatever reason, they don't carry no gun. So they're not gonna even, be able to stop that. You know, they won't be able to do nothing. And then some of them dudes be, when they go crash out, they get bulletproof, they wear bulletproof vests. So the only way you can shoot them is if you got to shoot them in a knee, the legs, or shoot them in the head. And you got to be a pretty good marksman to shoot a person in the head with a pistol. So uh that's that's what's going, that's going to continue to happen. But yeah, I've said quite a bit, man. You know, I'll keep doing these because I just, whenever I mean the Chronicles of the Quant Trader, I like that, man. That's pretty cool.